Okay, I'm at 302 Southbridge Lane in Washington Township, Ohio. I'm doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. We're looking for any structural issues, root intrusion, anything that may be of concern to the buyer. The access point here is, right now we're in the very back room of the basement, furthest back with the hot water heater. And I think there's something else might be in here, I don't know, but it seems like that's about the only thing in the room here, along with this stag. And it's a cast iron going down through the floor. I'd like to note that cast iron is kind of a weird animal. You can never really tell how much life is left in cast iron. And so you know, just due to the nature of the material. And then you have things like this where we've got some stuff on the front of the camera that we can't really see. So a lot of times we'll be able to run into some water here to rinse it off. But if nothing else, we should be able to see it on the way back. Once we get out far enough to get into some water and stuff down here, we should be able to see on the way back. But cast iron, you know, we're just mainly looking for functionality, because unless you can see a major hole or something in the line, then it's all pretty ugly. It's all pretty rusted and stuff like that. So I kind of think I may have switched over to clay at this point, but it's hard to tell with all the stuff on the camera. So as we're pushing, we'll look for some, hopefully we'll run into some water that'll be able to rinse off the camera head. Based off the coloring, let's see, we're pushing through clay. So I'm going to keep pushing, and then we'll rinse off the camera. If nothing else, we should be able to run some water somewhere in the basement at a low point, and there we go. So we know we do have some root intrusion. That's pretty heavy there, but we are in clay, and I may not be able to get past this point due to the blockage. Let's see if we can get past it. All right, was able to punch through it, but again, I'm pushing a bunch of stuff. So we're going to have to wait here to see. There we go. So I'm not really sure what direction this all goes, but there's some more roots. We do know there's some pretty heavy root intrusion though. And if we're getting down towards the one out the side, and then that may be the reason. So we just switched over to PVC. This is SDR 35. Looks like that was a repair. We are back to clay. So we only have roughly 150 feet of stick here, so hopefully we come into the main soon. There we are. Okay, so we're going to rest that in the water there for a second. See if we can get that cleaned off, and then we'll pull back out of that main. And so you can see right away at 129 feet we've got root intrusion a little bit there right at the tap on main. So, and we know that we've seen a couple spots as we pushed out, and so I am going to So we're going to have a few spots where, you know, we may need to take note of footage, and at least so they know how far out to clean, because these were pretty heavy. So this will need to be cleaned. I'm going to recommend, just off of what I've seen so far, that it be cleaned before taking occupancy, just to be sure that it's not causing any major backups. So alright, so we're going to start pulling back, and we'll obviously be able to get, should be able to get a lot better inspection now with everything cleaned off. And so in most of these cases, the structural integrity of the pipe is intact, other than, you know, some little gaps that were the packing in between the sections of clay where they're connected. Tends to, you know, maybe shrink a little bit over the years, and there's so many of them. There's one about it, these sections of pipe are only about 3 feet long, and so you just want to make sure, either with a chemical like Root-X, once you have it cleaned out and you're starting from scratch, you could maybe run some Root-X through it about once a year, and that usually helps keep them at bay. And then maybe have it checked after 5 years or so to see how much the roots have grown. But you can see that is probably 90 to 95% of the area of the pipe at the connection. It's grown like a curtain across it. And so that's at about 110, 111 feet, I guess. And as we go back, we'll keep kind of noting that, because that's a pretty bad one there. 111, 19. Those are, I actually poked a hole in that one. You can see it almost take the shape of my camera as I pulled back through it. And these are very close to causing issues as far as toilet paper backing up. And I always recommend you don't use any wet wipes in anything. But that would be another one that if people did start flushing, they can easily catch on those roots and start a backup. There's a little bit more there at about 97 feet. So hopefully we don't run into too many. Maybe it'll only be from about 97 to that 111 or whatever are the main ones. We can hope. But so far the line structurally looks like it's, you know, holding shape. I don't see any damage, any cracks or anything. It's a little bit more there at about 85. Ooh, there's a pretty bad one here at 80. I think this may be the worst one. That's pretty thick. So this is the one that I had to poke through on the way out to be able to get on the back end of that. It looks open at that point, but then once you got closer, you can see how it closes down, and there's already some toilet paper kind of stuck on that. So I did poke a hole in it, so I probably saved them from a backup very soon. In fact, I would be surprised if it wasn't already beginning. Just because I see the flow line looks pretty high on the side of this pipe, so it may have already started to back up, and then whenever somebody quit, filled up all the pipe, and then whenever someone, you know, quit running water, it was able to seep through slowly and through those roots. but any excessive use would have backed up into the house. Hopefully that was the last spot. This is all looking pretty good. Again, this is very common to find with old lines like this. They do need maintenance, as does anything that's this age. And so I would usually recommend, there are permanent solutions to this. You could, after getting it cleaned, you could get it you can get it lined, which basically just puts a liner inside the pipe to keep the roots from getting in at those seams. Or you could dig it up and replace the whole line. Actually, the two things probably don't cost much different, but normally you would just do maintenance on it. Put some chemical down it once a year, and then maybe check it after about 5 years to see how much root growth you have, and give you a better idea of a maintenance schedule. So we are back in the cast iron here, and you can see this is always ugly. Cast iron never looks great because it does rust, and so you can never really tell how much life you have left in it as far as the thickness of the pipe. So here we're just looking for any major structural issues, holes in the pipe. It does always look pretty ugly, but it looks open. I don't see anything abnormal about the way it looks. There's a dive to get lower. I believe there was 2 of those. Okay, so based off the footage, I believe this either goes out the side or the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to go across to the other side of the basement and try to go through that other stack just to check that other length of pipe to the point where we get across. Should only have to go about 30 feet or so to be able to check what kind of condition that pipe is in. But this all looked good structurally. You just have some root intrusion. Seems starting majorly at about 80 feet, going out to about 129, 130 feet. And like I mentioned, that's just something that you can take care of with cleaning and some chemical treatment to keep those roots from causing future issues. So I'm going to pause the video here, and we're going to make a move over to the other side of the basement now. Okay, I'm actually not going to be able to get access to this line over here. The amount of pressure that I'm having to put on the cap to get it loose, I'm just not comfortable due to the connections. This is a no-hub cast iron, and so I just don't want to take any chance in the way it's the way the cap is wound up with. It looks like some form of Teflon tape. They may have had issues with it leaking, and we did inspect the majority of the line. This only would have been a few feet from one side of the basement to the other, and it will be flow tested. And like I said, I don't feel comfortable risking damaging the line to get this the exterior line above ground, just to get access to this little bit of pipe. So again, all the issues we found were on the exterior in the clay, and that was the about 130 feet from that back clean out. And so starting there, going back, so basically from 80 to 130 feet is where the issue is. Those roots need to be cleaned and then periodically treated, just to make sure that they don't cause any major future issues. So that'll end the inspection at 302 Southbridge Lane in Washington Township, Ohio.